A very good evening and welcome. This is Prime Time News here on TV1. Today is the 7th of August 2023. For the News First team, I am Jaimal Ratnayaka.
And I'm Mariam Gunavijaya. Before we head on to our stories in detail, here's a look at your top stories for this evening.
News First Headlines. Main sponsor.
Durden's Hospital, dedicated to you.
Sri Lanka Air Force training aircraft crashes in China Bay, killing 2 airmen during air test. Cabinet decides to release water to rice fields from Samanalawewa. 40% of cultivation already destroyed. Over 28,000 families affected by dry spell. Labour Struggle Centre goes to court to secure pension funds. Civil and political groups condemn President's remarks on debt restructuring.
News First Headlines. Main sponsor.
Durden's Hospital, dedicated to you.
On to your lead story this evening. 2 Sri Lanka Air Force personnel were killed when a training aircraft crashed at the China Bay Sri Lanka Air Force Station in Trincomalee on Monday morning.
A PT-6 aircraft used for training pilots at the No. 1 Flying Training Wing in China Bay crashed at the China Bay Sri Lanka Air Force Station in Trincomalee at around 11:27 a.m. on Monday. The 2 Sri Lanka Air Force personnel aboard the aircraft were killed in the tragedy. The deceased were identified as Wing Commander Tarindu Herath and Flying Officer Peshan Varnasurya. Air Marshal Udeni Rajapaksha, the commander of the Sri Lanka Air Force, had ordered an immediate investigation into the crash. On the 15th of December 2020, a PT-6 trainer aircraft belonging to the No. 1 Flying Training Wing at Sri Lanka Air Force Academy, China Bay, crashed near the Janaranjana tank in Suryapura, Kantale. The pilot of the aircraft, who was on a solo training mission, was killed in that crash.
On to a story that has grabbed the spotlight over the past few days. Sri Lanka's Cabinet of Ministers on Monday granted approval to release the required amount of water from the Samanalawewa for agricultural purposes. Farmers made a series of requests from Sri Lankan authorities to release water. However, those requests were turned down, citing that releasing water would result in an electricity crisis for the south of Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka's Minister of Agriculture as well as the Minister of Power and Energy had noted that they would submit facts to the cabinet meeting on Monday that would be chaired by the President. Ministers Harin Fernando and Manushanana Kara commented on the decision taken by the Cabinet of Ministers.
Bear in mind where we were a year ago. This is not anyone's fault. There are less clouds in the sky. When there is less rainfall, we experience a drought and people experience water and power cuts. However, the cabinet decided on an uninterrupted supply of both. Do not incite people for your own fantasies. This is our appeal to you. We will not allow anyone to incite the people to take to the streets. We also make an appeal to the media. We recall the Sirasa Sahana Yatra where water was distributed to the people who were battered. Dherana also did something called Manusadharana, and Hiru also did the same, as did Swarnavahini. Let us all unite to help the people in their time of need. Some channels are entertained by this. Let it be. But remember that it will come back to haunt you. When that happens, do not point the finger at us. 3.5 MCM will be released daily for 3 days from 3 AM on Tuesday from the Samanalawewa. The maximum capacity is 2,850 acre-feet. We will provide it for 3 days.
Will there be any power shortages in the southern province?
No such thing will happen. We will use alternative sources to provide electricity.
Water from the Samanalawewa was retained, citing the need to generate electricity. The present situation is such that water will likely be unavailable for cultivation and the generation of electricity. The total water capacity of the Samanalawewa dropped to 11.3% as of Friday, the 4th of August. According to the data made public by the Ceylon Electricity Board, Samanalawewa's contribution to the national grid on Sunday was 1.2%. The total electricity generation on Sunday was 41.52 gigawatts gigawatt hours, and the Samanala Vavar's contribution to the national grid was a mere 0.52 gigawatt hours. 2 generators can be operated to generate 60 megawatts of electricity from the water in the Samanala Vavar reservoir. However, at present, only 1 generator is in use. Therefore, this single generator is generating 30 megawatts of electricity. If a continuous supply of electricity is generated using the present water capacity, the water in the Samanala Vavar will only be sufficient for another 15 days. If this is the case, what is the plan to move forward? This issue mainly affects the southern province. According to the Ceylon Electricity Board, it does not have a system to provide the southern province with electricity from the national grid. A 150-kilometer long transmission system from Pulpitiya to Hambantota was constructed. However, a land dispute had stalled the process of completing it. The CEB is no longer purchasing electricity from a private power plant in Ambilipitiya. The CEB has not even taken over the private power plant despite being able to do so. So what is the alternative way of providing electricity to the south of Sri Lanka? Sri Lanka's Power and Energy Minister Kanchana Wijesekara on Monday said Ceylon Electricity Board has planned for an uninterrupted supply of power island-wide throughout the year with no scheduled power cuts, adding that currently the full capacity of available power plants are in use for power generation. He posted on X, formerly known as Twitter, noting that the discussion to settle the dispute between the landowner and CEB to complete the ADB-financed Pulpitiya Hambantota transmission line has been set for the 11th of August by the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka. If the water in the Samanala Vavar is not sufficient and if the transmission line for the southern province is incomplete, the next available option is emergency purchasing. Therefore, authorities will be compelled to purchase electricity at a higher cost from private power plants. So far, such incidents have not yielded any positive outcomes for the people. Will the people of Sri Lanka be once again burdened by decisions that were not taken on time? This is the fate of the rice fields located in the Hambantota district. The Minister of Agriculture pointed out that following a decision made by the Ceylon Electricity Board to not release water from the Samanala Vavar to the Udawalawe Reservoir, a decision that was also approved by the Cabinet, 40% of the rice fields in Ratnapura, Hambantota and Monaragala districts were destroyed due to the shortage of water. More than 25,000 hectares of rice fields in the Ratnapura, Ambilipitiya and Monaragala areas are nurtured by the water that flows via 2 waterways, namely the left bank canal and the right bank canal that originate from the Udawalawe reservoir. More than 30,000 families depend on the water from these waterways to sustain their livelihoods, which are based on agriculture. While having to face a plethora of issues, including the fertilizer crisis, farmers from these 3 districts cultivated over 220,000 metric tons of paddy during the recent Yala harvest season. Swathes of paddy lands in the Yaya Dahanama area in Angunukula Palassa that are nurtured by the Walava left bank canal have already been destroyed.
My rice field spans an acre and a half. I am 120,000 rupees in debt. However, my crops are destroyed and I am unable to settle my debt. I am helpless. This is a crime. The Mahavali authorities said that water will be provided until the 2nd of August. However, we were not provided with water for over a month. Take a look at the crops. This is a disappointing situation.
Monday marked 15 days since the farmers from Ambilipitiya launched a Satyagraha campaign demanding water be released from the Samanala Vavar to the Udawalawe reservoir.
Do they not understand the woes of the people? The farmers are only asking for water for their rice fields. Most fields have been destroyed. If they can release some water, it will be sufficient to save the crops and for the people to survive. This is purposeful evasion. They forced us to suffer under the scorching sun for 15 days.
The Anuradhapura District Great Irrigation Joint Farmers Association convened a press conference on Monday in support of farmers in Udawalawe.
විශේෂ අවධානයකින් යොමු කරලා
We wish to know what decision will be taken by the government with regard to this issue. Will the cabinet decide on electricity or the people's starvation? Those consuming rice must understand that people can live without electricity but cannot live in hunger. Therefore, we as the agriculture movements in the Anuradhapura district urge the government to release water from the Samanala River to nourish the 75,000 acres of paddy land. If we don't receive rainfall, the existing water will also dry up and the farmers will be rendered helpless. Then we will also lose electricity.
ඊට පස්සේ විදුලියක් නැති වෙනවා.
The All Ceylon Agrarian Federation convened a press conference in Ambilipitiya and emphasized that steps should be taken to solve the issue without further delay.
They are criminals. Now what has been done? They have destroyed thousands of acres. If this water is released, the paddy lands under the small weber can be saved. Some paddy require one water shift of water, some require two. Those paddy lands can be saved. We urge the government to take this decision and implement it now instead of wasting time.
මේ තීන්දුව අරගෙන මේක වහාම ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්න කියලා අපි ආණ්ඩුවට බල කරලා කියනවා.
මේ රටේ ගොවි ජනතාව මේ ආණ්ඩුවට කරපු වරද.
What mistake did these farmers commit to be penalized like this? This government should be held accountable for this great crime. Therefore, there will be no forgiveness from the people of this country, especially from the farmers.
ගොවි ජනතාවගෙන් කිසිම සමාවක් නැහැ.
The Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna commented on the situation.
As a political party, we would like to address two things. First, we would like to tell the JVP linked representative who is yelling out on the streets. There was a power generation plan in the country. And as per that plan, the Sampur power plant and the Umaoy project were to be completed some 4 years ago. However, they went to court and suspended construction of the Sampur power plant and deceived the people by saying that there was a leak in the Umaoy tunnel. That project was also suspended because of the JVP. Today, we are witnessing the consequences of those actions. They have no moral right to speak about this situation. Yet, as a political party, we urge the government to decide for the betterment of the farmers as they are the lifeline of this country. General Secretary of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party made the following remarks in Hettipola on Monday.
The Met Department knows the time at which it will rain or not. So what had to be done was to find a way to stop using water to generate electricity. If there was a way, this water could have been given for cultivation. This is the result of not giving water for cultivations. So the irrigation minister cannot get away with this. The Minister of Power won't be able to get away with this. The Minister of Agriculture should know the areas that do not have water. This is a crisis of the government. This is a crisis within the ministers of the government.
A joint opposition group met in Parliament and stressed on the water crisis.
දැන් උඩවලවේ ගොවි ජනතාව මුණ පා සිටින දරුණුතම අර්බුදයක් තිබෙනවා ජල අර්බුදය. ඒතකොට දැන් මේ වතුර නොදී
The farmers in Udavalava are experiencing a serious water crisis. The government has avoided providing a solution to the issue. In Parliament, we highlighted the importance of addressing the crisis.
පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ මතු කරන්න තීරණය කළා.
If we look at the Udavalava water crisis from the farmers' point of view, the loss is almost 3 billion, while it is only 18 million when you look at it from the electricity generation point of view. The government has not done an estimate and the farmers are suffering. A decision must be made. This is like a betting game. Do you want electricity or rice? We need both. We cannot eat in the dark and we cannot be in hunger without electricity. This is why we need a government. The government must accept its mistakes.
The All Ceylon Agrarian Federation filed a complaint with the Human Rights Commission of Sri Lanka and urged immediate intervention to release water from the Samanala River.
අද හෝ හෙට හෝ වතුර නුදුන්නොත් බේරගන්න තියෙන 140වත් මේ වගාවේ බේරගන්න බෑ.
If water is not released by today or tomorrow, we will not be able to even save 40% of the rice fields. We urge the Human Rights Commission to conduct an investigation and then issue an order to release water from the Samanala River to save the rice fields. If not, there will be no crops and no electricity as well. We filed a complaint with the Human Rights Commission. We hope an order will be issued for the water from the Samanala River to be released to irrigate the rice fields.
The citizens' movement against bribery, corruption and waste and several other civil movements handed over a letter to the Human Rights Commission of Sri Lanka.
At a time when there are concerns over the food security in Sri Lanka, it is paramount that water be released for the farmers.
Farmers from the Valava zone who cultivate using the water from the Udavalava reservoir, which is nourished from the Samanala River, managed to cultivate amidst a plethora of difficulties, and they were demanding water for over a month so that they could nurture their crops. As those pleas fell on deaf ears, farmers launched a fast in a bid to protect their crops, while the Minister of Power and Energy maintained his position.
What happens when we release the water? Water will be sufficient for a few days and there will be no cultivation. From that day onwards, we will have to impose 4-hour power cuts for 5 districts.
It was based on an agreement reached at the cabinet meeting that water was not released to the farmers. As farmlands were deprived of much needed water, the crops started to wither. Almost a week late, the cabinet on Monday decided to release water. Has the government managed to solve its electricity crisis to reach such a decision? The Samanala River can generate electricity at its present capacity for approximately another 15 days. That means the water is also insufficient for hydropower generation and farmlands are also destroyed due to the lack of water. If this decision had been taken before, the rice fields could have been saved. Farmers protested, fasted and even marched onto the dam of the Samanala River reservoir, demanding that this decision be reached sooner. In the end, there is neither water for rice fields nor water for electricity generation.
What is the outcome of such a decision?
As per the Minister of Power and Energy, if the Polpitia to Hambantota transmission line cannot be linked to the national grid soon, the government will be compelled to go for emergency power purchasing. A hydropower generated unit of electricity only costs 4 rupees. However, this rises to 100 rupees for emergency power purchases. Various decisions are being reached from time to time. Is it not the people of Sri Lanka who will be burdened by these decisions?
In the meantime, Sri Lanka's Met Department warns that the country will not experience sufficient rainfall until October. The Met Department says that after October, the atmosphere would develop to a rainy weather pattern.
Sri Lanka's Disaster Management Centre said that 5 districts were severely affected by the dry weather, adding that a total of 21,714 families were affected. The northern, eastern, Sabaragamuwa and northwestern provinces have been severely affected by the dry weather. The Disaster Management Centre said that 69,113 people belonging to 21,714 families have also been affected. According to the latest report issued by the Disaster Management Centre, people belonging to the divisional secretariats of Delft Island, Kites Island, Chavakacheri, Muruthankani and the Tsankanei areas in the Jaffna district have been affected the most. Moreover, around 8,000 people in the Kinniya, Seruvila, Kuchaveli, Verugal, Muttur and Gomarang-Kadavala areas in the eastern province have also been affected by the dry weather spell. The Disaster Management Centre said that people from Kurunagala, Bamunukotua and Giribava divisional secretariats have been inconvenienced by the arid weather conditions. The farmers of the Mahavali H zone are facing many difficulties due to the lack of water for their cultivations. Farmers state that it is impossible to obtain water from the Kala River because of its reduced water levels. Farmers have cultivated paddy and soybeans this yellow season.
We cultivated soybeans because they promised us to give water. Otherwise, we wouldn't get into debt to cultivate soybeans. We are in debt and we have even mortgaged our gold jewelry to cultivate soybeans.
As we know, it is hard to get water from the Kala River for another season. Water of the Kala River has come to a lower level. The government is saying that Kothmale is not sending water because there will be power disruptions. They say that they can't give water, and if they give water, there will be power disruptions. Electricity is not important to us right now. We need water.
Farmers claim that the water levels of the Minneria and Kaudulla tanks have reduced as well.
The Giritale tank has a very low water level. It didn't rain for 4 to 5 months this season.
As you witnessed just now, the woes of farming communities in Sri Lanka continue to compound each passing day. While one segment of farmers were deeply affected due to the lack of water being released to nourish their fields, farmers who cultivated Nadu paddy this Yalla season are facing difficulties to sell their harvest.
Now, the main reason for this is a decision by the Paddy Marketing Board to only purchase Samba, Kiwi Samba and another variety of paddy. Meanwhile, the 250 million rupee loan obtained by the Paddy Marketing Board from the Ministry of Agriculture at an interest of 8% must be repaid before the 31st of December.
Based on weather patterns in Sri Lanka, the Yalla season does not offer a high quality yield when compared to the Maha season. However, a recent decision by the Paddy Marketing Board is set to further improve the quality of profits enjoyed by mill owners in the country. That is, deciding to sell more than 5 million kilos of paddy in its possession to mill owners for a pittance. Selling stocks of paddy from the warehouses in Ampara, where more than 50% of paddy stocks are stored, commenced today. According to this written directive by the chairman of the Paddy Marketing Board, it should sell Nadu bought at 120 rupees per kilo in the 2021-22 Maha season and 2022 Yalla season at a mere 80 rupees per kilo. Based on scientific facts, Nadu bought at 120 rupees and stored for a considerable period of time would lose its moisture and lessen in weight. Therefore, a kilo of that particular Nadu should ideally be worth around 123 rupees at present. Hence, the loss incurred due to the sale of Nadu at the determined price would be in excess of 190 million rupees. 1.5 million kilograms of the stock of Nadu in question fall into a special variety of paddy. Since this variety is in high demand, the government has decided to purchase it from farmers at a high price in the near future. But the Paddy Marketing Board has resorted to selling the stock of this special variety of paddy in its possession at the same price quoted for Nadu. The chairman's directive reads that the warehouses of the Paddy Marketing Board must be emptied expeditiously. The same letter authorizing the sale of paddy for unbelievably cheap prices highlights that the Paddy Marketing Board should speedily settle the loan and interest owed to 2 state banks. The Paddy Marketing Board could have followed 2 alternative methods. The first being processing the paddy to rice and releasing them to be sold at Satosa outlets. Calling for tenders and offering this stock of paddy was the second method it could have adopted. However, the failure of the Paddy Marketing Board to follow either of these more lucrative options only goes to show that the Paddy Marketing Board is also a pawn of the rice mafia. If mill owners are able to purchase a high quality stock of paddy for mere pennies, what is to prevent them from purchasing paddy harvested from the ongoing cultivating season at unreasonably low prices? Minister of Agriculture, for your attention. The Food and Agriculture Organization delivered 8,360 tons of Japan-funded fertilizer to support smallholder paddy farmers in Sri Lanka.
The Food and Agriculture Organization delivered 8,360 metric tons of urea fertilizer this week to the Ministry of Agriculture for distribution during the forthcoming Maha cropping season. This has been made possible through generous funding from the government of Japan. The essential fertilizer will be distributed to over 228,000 smallholder paddy farmers across several districts in dry and intermediate zones of Sri Lanka, bolstering production and increasing the resilience of smallholder paddy farmers in the country. The assistance targets smallholder paddy farmers cultivating lands up to 1 hectare in Kurunegala, Jaffna, Kilinochchi, Mullaitivu, Mana, Vaunia, Trincomalee and Batticaloa districts.
Just as King Parakarambahu the Great expressed, not a drop of water should be allowed to flow into the sea without being utilized by humans. Sri Lanka's reservoirs have served as the backbone of agriculture and rural life. The strong agricultural background we have in common has forged a deep connection in Japan's official development assistance support vis-à-vis Sri Lanka. And we have put a strong emphasis on assisting in the irrigation area to facilitate rural development in Sri Lanka. We remain committed to continuing our support for Sri Lanka's agricultural and rural communities. Japan, alongside with France and India, has launched and is chairing the official creditors meeting, providing solid cooperation for the debt restructuring process. Japan has been actively involved in leading this process and will continue to play a significant role not only as a major creditor nation, but also as a long-standing friend of Sri Lanka. Japan remains determined to stand by Sri Lanka as a time-tested partner and to support Sri Lanka's recovery efforts and pursuit of prosperity.
Under this emergency assistance program, farmers cultivating up to 0.5 hectares of land will receive 25 kilograms of urea fertilizer free of charge, while those cultivating up to 1 hectare of land will receive 50 kilograms of urea, also provided at no cost to the farmers.
News first with the people.
News First. Main sponsor.
Durden's Hospital, dedicated to you.
Several factions have responded to a statement made by President Ranil Wickremesinghe addressing the Coconut Growers Association on Friday.
The President said that only Parliament holds authority over government fiscal control, highlighting that the government will not heed orders or advice from any other party except Parliament with regard to debt optimization.
The Freedom People's Congress made the following remarks on Monday.
The government came into this agreement with the IMF. The Parliament was not notified of this in any way. They are getting the Parliament involved in this so that they can say that he alone was not a part of this. The President made some statements at the annual meeting of the Coconut Growers Association. The President threateningly stated that he will only act as per the orders and instructions of the Parliament. He also said that he will not consider any recommendations made by any other party. He also said not to go to courts if the courts intervene in this. He also said that he will disregard the court's instructions. What is this? The demise of democracy of this nation. Lawyers of the Jatika Jana Balawegaya made the following remarks in Balasmulla on Sunday. The judicial power of the people is exercised by the Parliament. It is stated that under Article 4A of the Constitution. Does it mean this unstable government can hear cases? No. It means that the Parliament has the power to build judicial institutions and pass the relevant acts and bills. Does it mean that cases can be heard before the Parliament? No. There is a clear difference between an integral constitutional law and black letters. The ruler is governed by the Constitution. Thus, the ruler must respect the Constitution. If the judiciary and the legislative overlaps, or the judiciary and the cabinet overlaps, the country or the Constitution will be in crisis. There must be a mutual understanding among all of them. That is called the tradition. Only a president who respects such tradition can serve as the president by the people's mandate.
The Young Lawyers Association convened a media briefing.
Ranil Wickremesinghe was deposed via conspiracy in 2018. Thereafter, Ranil Wickremesinghe returned to power based on a court order. However, Ranil Wickremesinghe, who complied with that order, is disregarding the orders in this issue. Ranil Wickremesinghe is trying to establish his anti-people policies via intimidation.
The private employees centre that operates under the Labour Struggle Centre filed a fundamental rights application with the Supreme Court of Sri Lanka.
The central bank governor, among 45 others, was named as respondents in the application that was filed against the impact that restructuring poses to the EPF and the ETF.
It is very unusual for the EPF to be slashed in this process. Some bonds were purchased by the private sector and some by the EPF. Both need to be treated equally, but that is not taking place. Private investors are ignored and they are trying to only slash the provident funds.
Iran says it is ready to share scientific and technological knowledge with Sri Lanka.
Iran has voiced readiness to share its scientific and technological knowledge and expertise with friendly countries, including the South Asian island nation of Sri Lanka. Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi made these remarks on Sunday during a meeting with Sri Lanka's Foreign Minister Ali Sabri in Tehran. According to a communique issued by his office, Iran's president emphasized the need to activate the Joint Commission for Economic Cooperation between the two countries. He said the island nation in the Indian Ocean has huge potential for progress and prosperity, while cautioning it against colonial and self-serving foreign interventions. The Sri Lankan foreign minister, for his part, expressed his country's interest in expanding cooperation with Iran in various fields. Relations between Iran and Sri Lanka have been stable since the 1979 revolution, although officials of the two countries have often spoken about the untapped potential of bilateral cooperation.
A 29-year-old Sri Lankan woman who was staying at the Mandapam Rehabilitation Centre since April 2022 has been reported missing since the 27th of July. Mandapam police said a missing persons case had been registered following a complaint from Pradeep, age 32, husband of the missing woman Kasturi, age 29. Preliminary inquiry revealed that Kasturi, who was a professional model, frequently visited Tiruchi and Chennai. On the 27th of July, her husband saw her off in a train to Chennai from Mandapam railway station. Though he was said to have been in touch with her for about 2 days after she reached Chennai, subsequently her phone went off on switch off or not reachable mode and he rushed to Chennai in search of her. When he visited the address given by his wife, it was found to be wrong. Hence, he lodged a complaint with the police. A mother of two, Kasturi, was said to be moving out of the centre regularly as part of her profession, which was not permitted to be occupants. A total of 270 people, including women and children from different parts of Sri Lanka, reached Dhanushkodi after paying hefty sums to boatmen over the last 18 months. On arrival, they told the authorities that due to the economic crisis in Sri Lanka, they had left the country and reached India. The Tamil Nadu government was retaining such migrants on humanitarian grounds and awaiting clear instructions from the union government on the status of the people. Following the woman's missing complaint, security personnel and officials from various central agencies visited the rehabilitation centre in Mandapam for investigations.
Be the first to know about the biggest stories as they break. Subscribe to News First English News Alerts. News First, your trusted English news channel.
The second leg of the LOLC Divisavya program got underway in the Kegol district earlier today. The LOLC Divisavya program was launched in a bid to distribute much-needed school books and stationery to Sri Lankan school students. This worthy initiative is a collaboration between the LOLC group and the Ministry of Education. On Monday, the LOLC Divisavya program took place in the Kegol and Mavanalla education zones in the Kegol district. 3,685 students from 51 government schools will be provided school books and stationery free for 1 year. The LOLC Divisavya program distributed school books and stationery to students at the Nidadurupola Mahavidyalaya, Vehella Primary School, Malamaduwa Primary School and the Lenagala Mahavidyalaya. They also distributed school books and stationery to students from the Al Jalal Muslim Mahavidyalaya, DS Sena Nayaka Primary School, Gantuna Udugama Primary School and the Dotal Oya Primary School. Another team distributed school books and stationery to students from 43 other schools at the Kegol and Mavanalla zonal education offices. The LOLC Divisavya program will continue to support the future of Sri Lanka's student population.
Days after South Korean President Yoon Suk Yeol announced special measures to protect the World Scout Jamboree participants from an unbearable heatwave, evacuation of the campsite is underway as Typhoon Khanun is about to make landfall in the East Asian country.
The World Scout Jamboree was held in Semangum on the west coast of South Korea, in which around 40,000 teens participated. Kim Sang-ho, Vice President for Disaster and Safety Management, said about 36,000 Scout participants from 156 countries will be transferred to the Greater Seoul area starting Tuesday morning. The emergency evacuation plan would include 1,000 buses for transport, while the Prime Minister will meet with local authorities later today to discuss accommodation and additional activities for the Scouts. Since the start of the World Scout Jamboree on the 1st of August, it faced several issues, with the typhoon being the latest. Earlier in the week, hundreds of participants became ill due to extreme heat, with some of them seeking help from an on-site medical center for health issues. Days earlier, President Yoon Suk-yeol ordered authorities to send air-conditioned buses to the site for additional shelter from the heat and called for efforts to maintain hygiene at the World Scout Jamboree campsite to prevent food poisoning. Sri Lankan D. Pratapasinghe made history recently at the Royal Institute for Chartered Surveyors South Asia Awards 2023 under the categories of Property Professionals of the Year and Valuation Team Award. He incidentally is the first Sri Lankan valuer in history to win a global award for property valuation.
The RICS Awards showcase the most inspirational initiatives and developments in land, real estate, construction and infrastructure, and recognize outstanding achievement, teamwork and companies. It recognizes industry-leading achievements and demonstrates the upholdings of the highest standards of professionalism and ethics by individuals and teams across the built and natural environments. A leading chartered valuation surveyor from Sri Lanka, D. Pratapasinghe, grabbed the Global Award for Property Valuation at the RICS South Asia Awards 2023 on Thursday in India.
Ladies and gentlemen, they are from Sri Lanka, neighbors. Many congratulations. Making a mark. That's Valuation Team Award which was presented. Now we have the individual award.
International cricket legend Sachin Tendulkar is in Sri Lanka, and the Little Master met with young school children in Kegol on Monday. Tendulkar is a UNICEF brand ambassador for South Asia, and his visit took place based on an invitation extended by Governor Navin Dissanayake.
We leave you tonight with footage from the Little Master's experience with school kids in Sri Lanka. Take care and good night.
Good morning, sir.
Good luck. Thank you.